Grand Theft Auto 2 is often overlooked by many of the franchise's fans, mostly because on the surface, it only slightly improved the original formula we received back in 1997 with GTA 1, and it wasn't until 2001 with GTA 3 that major advances were made, with the game switching from 2D to a fully fledged 3D open world. But if we take a deeper look at GTA 2, it has a few elements that are very unique, and that have never been replicated in any of the upcoming games that succeeded it. I've already talked about how amazing this game is in one of my first videos ever uploaded, and how this cyberpunk and retrofuturistic atmosphere of the game should be revisited if Rockstar plans on making any more GTA games past 6. As well as many other elements that made this game really unique, and also gave it a high replaying value. One of those such elements that I want to focus on and talk about in today's video is the respect system, which is always displayed as part of the heads-up display and the 7 gangs of Anywhere City that play a part in it. Now, I know that GTA 2 isn't the only game in the franchise to feature a respect meter that also impacts the gameplay directly. GTA San Andreas also notoriously had the Mission Passed Respect Plus text appearing after almost every single mission, as well as being shown in the player's stats. And while on the surface it may seem totally useless, it does actually serve at least one main purpose, and that is being able to recruit more Grove Street members that you can bring along as companions, and also help you fight in gang territory wars across Los Santos, or even the whole map if you pull off a certain glitch that enables it, although they are kind of useless in combat for the most part. At the beginning of the game, you're only able to recruit one Grove Street member, and that number goes all the way up to 7 when you max out the respect meter. So if you want to bring all of them with you, you might need a bus, or something else that can fit that number. There's also a more hidden feature that is directly correlated to the respect meter. As you might already know, NPCs in the game can and will interact with the player by either greeting or antagonizing the protagonist. And the interactions are based on a number of factors: the muscle or fat stat, the player's outfit, which can get different reactions depending on how expensive it is, the sex appeal stat, and even the respect one. After completing a mission and gaining a bit of respect, NPCs will always compliment Carl for a short period of time. And if that stat is maxed out, or at least at a pretty high level, this effect can be somewhat permanent. And that's a pretty cool use of this in-game stat. However, outside of that, the respect meter doesn't impact the gameplay all that much. As in, having a very low respect stat because you killed off too many GSF members or lost territories to either the Balas or the Vagos doesn't stop you from continuing the story, or at least make things harder for you in the long run. And I'm not saying that the game should stop you from doing missions for sweet if you have a low respect meter, but I think this mechanic is heavily underused in GTA San Andreas. Which is the complete opposite case for GTA 2, where the respect system is basically the most important thing in the game. Well, that is if you choose to complete the districts in the quote-unquote intended way, because as you all know, the 2D era games allowed you to completely ignore the missions and gave you the opportunity to figure out other ways of earning enough money to move on to the next area or district. With one popular method for GTA 2 being just riding around in a tank for a while and crushing every single vehicle that you encounter. But let's not get too sidetracked here. The respect system in this game works just as you expect. You start off with all 3 gangs of the respective district you're in, mildly taking a liking of you, and you're able to do the green payphone jobs for either of them, which are usually the easiest ones. During the tutorial mission of Downtown, you can go around the map to learn how things work, and while doing so, you interact with all 3 gang leaders of the Downtown gangs, which are the Yakuza, the Zaibatsu, and the Loonies. The game tells you directly that killing members of one gang will obviously lose respect for it, but in return, it gains the respect of another specific gang. However, the game doesn't tell you that there's more than one way of earning/losing respect for the gangs. Successfully completing a job for one gang will also lose the respect for its direct rival. But if you start a mission and then fail it, you actually gain respect for them, which is also a cool thing that you can do if you want to earn respect for a rival in a more pacifistic manner. And one more method, which I also find to be very cool and probably not that well known, is that stealing cars will also decrease respect for that specific gang. Although to lose even 1 bar of respect, you're gonna need to steal a lot of cars. And I mean, a lot of them. I'm not very sure on the exact numbers though. And that makes the gameplay very entertaining, because there's essentially non-violent ways of changing the way certain gangs view you, and I personally find that to be a nice touch. But you should be careful, because in the later districts, having the lowest amount of respect to where the gangs really hate you means the gang members will pack things like Molotovs, flamethrowers, and even rocket launchers. So the simple act of driving around in their territories can be very dangerous. And that's another element that makes this game very amazing. Having to maybe take a different route during a mission or even free roam, just so you don't get blown in the sky, makes it much more exciting. And because you can earn and lose respect from the get-go, as an example, you can just start off your playthrough by losing respect for Zaibatsu and gain maximum respect for the loonies. Which means you can skip over the green payphone jobs and just go straight for either the yellow ones, which are supposed to be a more medium difficulty, or even the red ones, which are the hardest. Obviously, that means that there's basically no linearity to the missions, and you can do them in whatever order you want, until you either get enough money to leave the district, if that's what you want, or just complete all of them. Which at the end will result in the 3 gang leaders finding out that you work for all of them, and they will come to hunt you down personally. But it also means that you can choose to only do red payphone jobs for all of the gangs, or do all of the missions of only 1 or 2 gangs. You can basically get to pick and choose whatever you want and have endless options for your playthrough, which is something that I really love about this game. And yes, that makes it very arcadey since there's no real story. Although reading the dialogue from the missions can almost always reveal very funny and weird lore elements of Anywhere City and its inhabitants. And it's exactly the arcadiness that can be a turnoff for some players. I remember reading somewhere that GTA 3 should have found a more realistic way of implementing the respect system from GTA 2. Because if you really think about it, Claude Speed from 2 and Claude from 3 do sort of the same thing, as you end up working for almost every single gang in the city. The Leones, the Yakuza, the Diablos, and so on. And to some extent they did kind of implement it, just without directly showing you a menu or HUD stat. Because some of these gangs are directly tied to the 3 payphone locations across the map. You can choose to work with the Yardies for example, and ignore the other 2 gangs and their respective missions, since they aren't even required for the story completion. After you've done some of these payphone mission chains, you'll permanently make certain gangs hate you, and unfortunately there's no way to avoid it. But it would have been interesting to have some way of re-earning their respect by killing off their direct rival, or maybe even stealing their cars too. Although I don't think Claude from GTA 3 really even deserves the respect of anyone, especially by the end of the game. Even Vice City had a slight attempt of implementing that, with the missions you can do for Umberto Robina and Auntie Poulet. But in order to complete one set of missions, you had to do the other one. So you couldn't take the side of anyone really. Although we kind of know that while working for the Haitians, we are under some sort of drug effect, meaning Tommy isn't even willingly doing these missions. But that doesn't really matter. And I also want to briefly mention another game that used a similar respect model, and that's Bully, where different cliques would earn and lose respect based on who you did missions for, but it didn't seem to be very important, especially upon game completion. I think Rockstar should consider revisiting the respect system model from GTA 2 and attempt to implement it in some way in one of their upcoming games. I'm not saying that story missions should be tied to gangs and have them available to us only if we're respected enough, but at least make them have some sort of impact within the free roam. Since just about every GTA game features locations where certain gangs and families can be seen roaming around. There's many side activities and events which could be impacted by such a system, and if anyone can think of a good way to implement it, it's Rockstar themselves. If anything, even the possibility of being able to associate with various gangs and do increasingly harder and more rewarding missions, depending on how well you're seen by them, could be an absolutely amazing feature for GTA 6. Although, if it wasn't already implemented by now, and we don't know that, then it obviously won't be a thing. Gangs and families have always played a role in every GTA game, so making things more interactive could only bring benefits. But what do you think? Is the respect system from GTA 2 a feature that should be revisited in some way and have it play a significant role to the core gameplay? Or do you think that it sucks and should never see the light of day again? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And while you're there, also leave a like. And of course, consider subscribing if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching.